The first god was stillborn. Before the mind, there was thought. Before matter, there were only time and ideas. There were restless, churning pockets of void in search of meaning, like bubbles in the sea, coalescing into larger shapes, but still drifting upward, and all doomed to vanish at the water's surface. The universe could only exist once enough of these fleeting concepts had settled together. This world had to occur naturally, without any part of it forced. A planned world is always a mad god's toy box. Life can only truly begin by mistake, and this mistake would not happen for a very long time. Too long, for one. A single mote of nothing, amidst countless others, grew more restless than anything else. This little nothing had become self-aware before sentience was needed or wanted. The mote drowned, festered, fermented. Never once coalescing with the others, it vibrated petulantly against the void for eons. And somewhere in its struggle, it invented willpower. With that, everything fell into place. The speck of nothing became an uncontrollable cascade of self-sustained almost. It grew larger from feeding upon its own non-existent flesh, one of the many liberties it could take before the laws of physics were written. Willpower became light. Light became matter. Matter took root from the 8 shards of its mind: life, hunger, serenity, creation, lust, ambition, logic, rot. Thus, the void was startled awake by its first hint of life, the flame of origin. The cascade invented gender and chose one. It invented names, eschewed them, and chose only a title. It invented language to mold its thoughts into meaning. And so, in a swaddling cloth of starlight and a cry with echoes that linger to this day, he, the shining despot of the self, the prince of princes, was born. Verily, he was alive for one shining, glorious instant into a tyrannical and sophistic empire of one, witnessed by no one and nothing, and died immediately thereafter, choking to death on the void. The Prince of Princes was too proud to wait for the first day, and for his arrogance, he was put to death. Life had no place in the void, not yet. And yet, its gigantic carcass of stone could not be fully erased. It remained drifting endlessly. Ages later, its lifeless eyes bore witness to the great mistake finally coming to be. The great tree of life, branching off eternally. When life began elsewhere, so too did it begin for the prince. Not for the prince itself, but for his remains. The dead god became a world in its own right. The 8 shards of his mind had drawn their first breaths. The shard of life, the eldest, became Kum of the 8-fold star, the almighty stork dragon of starlight. Ever pondering, but unfeeling, Kum inherited his father's arrogance. His 8-fold star, a pale imitation of his father's flame of origin, plants flaming seeds of life throughout the great mistake. And upon death, all those born under the wandering sons of Kum return to the Prince of Princes to wander eternally. A mortal life is a borrowed thing. Thus, through Kum's meddling, the Prince of Princes's carcass became a kingdom for the dead, expanding into thousands of others, all under a single name, Corbinic. As the dead filled Coom's strange new world, the other shards came to life, staking their claims over the wanderers. The Shard of Hunger became Nazda of the Wild Hunt, the seven-headed Duke of Weasels, the savior for those who take. He shares his profane dominion with his brother consort Raum. The latter is devoted to the devourment of pleasure, and the former the pleasure of devourment. The Shard of Serenity became Abad of the Red Crater, an absent-minded centipede, forever giggling as he forever twists upon himself. Virgin forests and jungles are his brothers and sisters. To Abad, everything beyond lazing about in the soft grass is a dangerous overcomplication. The Shard of Creation became Muzd of the Everkiln, the jolly firehawk of the forge, beating out the void with hammer, bellows, and song. To build or compose something is to banish emptiness and imitate the gods, and is therefore the most sacred thing a mortal could do. His popularity among the dead is well earned. The Shard of Lust became Rhum of the Drumglanta, the arch-hedonic stag, to whom all is taboo but the most attainable pleasures of the id. Whether he is a cruel seducer or a liberator from rigid conformity depends on whom you ask. But if you ask Rhum himself, he shan't respond, for flesh is the only language of the Drumglanta. The Shard of Ambition became Hajiti of the Primrose Deep, the turtle piping feverishly at the head of an endless fleet of slave ships. Forever envious of Coom, he hoards, subjugates, and repurposes Coom's creations, and anyone else who might prove useful. The Shard of Logic became Jalakara of the Impenetrable, the great bearded spider who struggles to weave order from the endless chaos of Corbinic. Humans and all their little kingdoms and hierarchies fill Jalakara with fascination, and he'll help them at every opportunity under his 3 unwavering moons. Still, as much as he believes his intentions are just, a spider builds a web for only one reason. The Shard of Rot, the youngest, became Voyu of the Murk, a meek, wretched snail spurned by all. But meekness without end begat perversions, dreams of unbreakable scar tissue, and a contagious vision of fermented enlightenment, the so-called Path of Esto. The day when this dream is forgotten cannot come soon enough. Though many are loath to call it the 9th Shard, the Flame of Origin, the very soul of the Prince of Princes, became the Glasslings, inscrutable beasts of endless power tempered by endless innocence. In their ignorance, they understand the universe more than any sage, and leave their teachings scattered in the stardust. The first god was stillborn. Its great corpse of stone orbits the tree of life. Heaven to some, hell to some, and to other gods a soul-stealing parasite in the shape of a world. But like any other world, Corbinic was born of an accident. And though the finer points of the meaning of life are still a subject of debate, the only solution to an accident of the past is to rebuild the mess into a thing of beauty.